In the previous lecture, we talked in detail about the evolutionary history of language models. The main reason why chat was so popular today was not because it could chat with people or help them with their homework. In fact, chat was not good at doing homework. Although it could solve some problems in middle schools and universities, for most of them, the answers it gave were just words. In fact, the really scary thing about chat is that if it continues to develop at the current rate and continues to expand its application area, it may be able to solve many problems that originally required humans to solve. Now the question is, what are the problems that chat can solve? What are the problems that it cannot solve? As mentioned earlier, the foundation of chat is the language model, so its limits are also limited by the limits of the language model. In this talk, let's see what language models can do. After understanding this problem, you will also know the capability boundaries of chat. I divide the things that language models can do into 3 categories. The first category, information form conversion. The first is the conversion of information from one form to another, whether it is automatic speech recognition or machine translation. In automatic speech recognition, the input information is voice sound waves, and the output information is text. They are one-to-one correspondence, so it is the transformation of information in form. The same is true of machine translation, which is converted from the encoding of one language to the encoding of another language. However, it is worth pointing out that any form of information conversion usually loses some information. In machine translation, for example, the culture contained in the language is often lost. This is not a machine problem, but it often occurs when translating by humans. For example, Tang poetry is often boring when translated into English, and poetry in English is often bland when translated into Chinese. Some translators, who are fluent in Chinese and Western, will try to add elements of culture back, but computers can't do that. One application in this category that usually goes unnoticed is in medicine, such as gene sequencing. The DNA of any species is a combination of 4 ATCGs. Of course, they are not ranged arbitrarily, and not all combinations are reasonable. For example, the segments of bases with the same function in different species are actually similar, and each basic unit is a bit like a letter in a text. Therefore, based on one base, the next base can sometimes be identified. When we do gene sequencing, we have to cut the entangled DNA sequences and identify them one by one. When it is cut, it may be cut bad. Therefore, it is usually a lot of copies of DNA, cut and compared, so as not to cut each one properly and identify the wrong one. Of course, for fragments that are not well cut or not clearly identified, errors can be identified and corrected through language models. It's just that the language model used in this work is based on base pairs, not text. In addition, there is another thing that also falls into this category, which is to make computers write simple programs. In 2014, before leaving Google, the famous machine translation expert Orko led such a project, which was to get people to describe what they wanted to do, and then get computers to write Python programs. Orko's idea is simple. Since a computer can translate text in one human language into text in another human language, it should be able to translate text described in natural language into scripts in machine language, that is, programs. In 2014, Orko's team was able to turn simple task books with clear functional descriptions into Python programs. However, the difficulty at the time was that people could not actually write their ideas very accurately in natural language. From the point of view of information theory, if there is a perfect algorithm, this large class of problems can be solved perfectly. For these things, in the end, humans can't do it better than machines. Type 2. Generate text on request. The second type of thing a language model can do is generate text on request. The main tasks chat does today, such as answering questions, replying to emails, and writing simple paragraphs, fall into this category. In this type of work, the amount of information input is significantly less than the amount of information output. From an information theory point of view, this creates a lot of uncertainty and requires additional information. The source of the supplementary information is actually the information contained in the language model. Therefore, if the language model contains a lot of relevant information about a topic, it can produce high-quality text. Otherwise, the answers it gives or the content it writes are irrelevant. This type of application is the most difficult for language models. This is not because the language model is not good enough, but because from the perspective of information theory, it is impossible to derive more information from less information. Therefore, this kind of work actually requires more or less manual intervention. Today, in addition to Chat, there are many similar writing software, and their content looks good. However, behind these software, there is actually a team of human editors, who will select one of dozens of candidate articles to provide users. Today, there are also outsourcing companies in the Silicon Valley area that evaluate content quality. They have people who evaluate the quality of computer-generated text and feed it back to the computer to continue to learn and improve. I specifically asked the hardcore consumers of Chat about the writing level of Chat. They themselves are PhDs studying machine learning. For the needs of their work, they analyze the writing level of Chat every day. They told me that one way to maximize the writing power of Chat is to iterate with it. Here's how they do it. A scat to write an article first. Most people stop here, but they will make new changes to the article written by the machine. And then it will rewrite it for you, and then you make the request again. In this way, the quality of the article will be greatly improved after several iterations. One of these two people, a US person, and the other is a Chinese person. Their evaluation of the article written by Chat is still very different. The US person thinks that the quality is average and can be sent as an email, but it is not wonderful and cannot be used as his own writing. Otherwise, others will feel that their level is too low. While the Chinese people think that it is well written because their native language is not English, which saves them a lot of time. Although he can write articles of the same level, he may have to spend more time choosing words and grammar. Of course, one might think that Chat gives better answers to some professional questions than experts. This phenomenon exists, and as we said earlier, it may have learned thousands of times more than we do. But that's because other experts have already researched the questions posed and have ready knowledge to provide it. For example, if you ask a computer, "Why is the sky blue?" you get the perfect answer because physicists have studied it before, and their explanations have been accepted by more physicists. That is to say, there is still human intervention first. Even many questions. In fact, there are better question-answer pairs on the internet. Software like Chat just sorts them out. Conversely, research by several large Silicon Valley companies found that Chat did much worse on elementary school arithmetic and even some language tests than it did on high school AP exams and graduate admissions exams, such as the MCAT test for medical school. The reason is that it has never seen the questions of those elementary school students. While the AP class and the MCAT test are standardized, and there are many past test questions to be found. However, although Chat cannot create answers on its own, it is still very valuable. It can reduce human workload. This is just like when you take a physics exam, a calculator can save time. But if you don't understand the content of physics, even if you have the right tools, you can't do it. Category 3. Information simplification. The third category of things language models can do is reduce more information to less. For example, writing a summary for a long article, performing data analysis as required, and analyzing listed companies' financial statements are all part of this work. This kind of work, the input information is more, the output information is less. So as long as the algorithm is done well, there will be no problem of insufficient information. If you change the information from more to less, you will be faced with a choice of which information to keep and which information to delete. For example, when writing a summary of a book, different people will write different summaries, and they will have different opinions on what is important and what is secondary in the book. Similarly, different analysts will have different opinions on a listed company's quarterly earnings report, and they will pick the data as evidence according to their own ideas. Similarly, reducing more information can also lead to different results, depending on how the algorithm is designed, what information has been previously counted by the language model it relies on, and so on. Computers end up doing this kind of work better than most people. This is not only because computers read and process data quickly and have powerful language models, but also because they can be more objective than humans when summarizing, analyzing, or editing videos. For example, when many people analyze financial reports today, they will have preconceived opinions, and then choose the data according to their own opinions, intentionally or unintentionally, ignoring those important data that do not fit their own ideas. There are also many people who like to take out of context when making summaries. These problems are usually avoided by computers. However, there is also a problem with computer algorithms, which is the lack of personalization. We humans, usually different people, will have different views on the same book. Similarly, reading A Dream of Red Mansions, some people read it as a love story of Bao Dai. Some people read it as the life of a bureaucratic family, and some people read it as a microcosm of China's farming society. Similarly, when editing a movie into a short film, different people choose different clips. However, when machines do this kind of thing, the results are all the same. This is like the production line before the emergence of handmade products. Each piece has its own characteristics, and after the production of large machines, all products are standardized. But in general, in this regard, people can't do machines. This is just like the quality of most handmade products is not as good as that of big machines. Outlook, Chat GPT, and similar products have been able to do most of the work mentioned above, although sometimes it is not very good. However, due to its rapid progress, in the future, it will definitely be able to complete more work and do better work on existing work. In 2019, the famous artificial intelligence expert, also my senior brother Gur Yak, made such an estimate. By 2024, computers will be able to program very clearly described tasks. In 2026, complete the composition at the middle school student level. In 2028, edit the video. In 2049, write the best-selling novel. Academician Gur Yak also did a project himself, which was to have a computer generate a few minutes of TV film, based on the song Pearl of the Orient, and perform it in Hong Kong. The content and images of this TV film are actually an understanding and video translation of the lyrics of Pearl of the Orient. Many of the video images are beyond human imagination, but there are also some places that are still superficial and remain literal. For example, it understands the word Pearl of the Orient as a big water drop. So when singing Pearl of the Orient, the picture is a constantly changing water drop. Knowing what Chat can do and what it is good at, we will know how to learn from each other's strengths. For example, today there are many people who extract a few sentences from other people's articles and make a short video to earn traffic on Douyin. In the future, these contents will not be done by humans, and machines can do better. Next section, preview. Okay, that's it for now. Next, let's take a closer look at how Chat and similar products answer your questions.